Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp, along with Paul Frase. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. 11-year NFL veteran, father, husband, fundraiser, advocate, philanthropist, now a podcast host. Paulie, thanks for being on the show.
Great to be here. Thank you.
My gosh, I feel the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so we're going to start at the beginning, okay? You grew up. Talk a little bit about your mom and dad. You were born in Elmira, New York, but I think New Hampshire. You went to high school. Talk about mom, dad, and any siblings that you had.
Well, they're both salt of the earth. Dad was a preacher for how many years? I don't know. He was at the Congregationalist Church in Horseheads, New York, right outside of Elmira, and when I was 2 years old, I decided to move the whole family to New Hampshire. So anyway, no, dad pastored, probably 28 years at the same church up in New Hampshire. Wow. So yeah, and I had two older brothers and a younger sister, and wow, the good life, right? Growing up in a small town in New Hampshire, and great stuff. Great stuff.
Oh my gosh! I had three older brothers, so I have a younger brother theory, Polly. That the youngest one's the best. Yeah, I have a younger brother theory. The youngest one's the best athlete and the scrappiest. All right, wow. All right, so you get a scholarship to SU to play football. Talk about that process in playing for the Orange.
Well, that was kind of funny because being from New Hampshire, there's not a lot of kids that make it in the NFL, to Division I, right. And my coach was at our high school for like 37 years, and he never had a pro player, and he thought I might be able to do it, so he put out 100 films, VHS or whatever it was back then, and Joe Paterno, he had actually sent one to Joe Pa, and Paterno sent it back and says, "I'm not interested in number 70, but who's number 32?" And it was our sophomore running back. But man, it worked out well because I was recruited hard by Boston College with Bicknell, and Flutie was I think he was a sophomore or a junior, and it was in the heyday of Boston College. So anyway, I went to the Syracuse Dome, saw 30,800 people watching a basketball game for the Orangemen versus the Redmen, and oh my gosh! And then I I decided to go there because Mac was pretty charismatic. Yep. And said, we were 65th in the nation, but he was like, "Do you want to be a part of something great? You need to come here." And I was like, okay. And then the game of lacrosse was fascinating. I had never seen it over in New Hampshire. They hadn't kind of broken into the high schools yet. And we were like number 1 and 2 and 3, top 4 in the nation. And that was pretty cool. So, Syracuse was a great fit for me.
So your high school head coach was your first champion, your first mentor, and helped you get to school. I can say I played against Flutie twice. Paul, yeah, we lost both times at Bama. So that's how good he was. All right.
Yeah, he was hard to catch.
Let's talk about and then you play 11 years in the NFL. With the Packers. Did you play in the Super Bowl against Elway with the Packers?
Thanks for reminding me. That was Elway's first first go around, first win. So it took me 10 years to get to the Super Bowl, and then I lost, and life was over as I knew it for about 5 days, and then I was like, you know what? There's a little bit more to life than football or the Super Bowl. And then it took me about 3 years of people saying, "Oh, well, at least you went there and you got there." And I'm like, okay, whatever.
So you saw Kent Johnston. He was my strength coach at Bama in Tampa Bay.
Awesome. And I saw you interview him the other day, and Mike Wojcik was mine, and I heard you when you guys, the four-wheel drive was you guys were interviewing Mike.
Yeah.
and he had mentioned, Kent Johnson. I didn't know when I was at Green Bay. So I was with the Jets for 7 years. Then played for Jacksonville for 2 years, and then Green Bay
Right.
for 1 year, and Baltimore. That was all smoke and mirrors, and yeah, Kent Johnson. What is it? What a great guy. It was
What a great person he is, isn't
yeah,
he, man?
yeah, yeah.
He's just such a good friend of mine. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about the book. I read the book, Game Changer. Here it is, folks, right here. Allison, your son Joshua on the cover. Is that Nibs or Rocky
That,
or?
well, that's a stand-in. That's a
Oh yeah.
stand-in. So,
Well,
yeah,
let's talk about the book, Paulie, the Game Changer. Joshua was born with MTM, myotubular myopathy. He defied the doctor's odds, finding doctors around the world. You and Allison did to take on this muscular disease. So rare,
right.
only 50 people in the world had it. And
Yeah.
the dog colony, more special people and dogs, success in research, trials, medical advances, 20 years to get venture capitalists on board. And last but not least, Allison's dreams in the middle of the night with gifts from God, man, wisdom to say things like you would in the morning. Say what?
Right.
So much to talk about. Oh my gosh. Let's start out. How did you pick the name Game Changer?
Joshua's life there was a lot of instances of poignant. Uh, Nothing was a coincidence in Joshua's journey. There's no coincidences that Joshua was born to a mother who I call she had that New York chutzpah,
Yeah.
and a father that wouldn't, just tell me how to keep my son alive. And Allison was like, they don't know, so we have to figure it out. And
Wow.
yeah, so and but so Game Changer, Joshua, the dog Nibs.
Yeah.
When we finally proved proof of concept in mice, they said, we were like, okay, can we go to humans? And they said, no, we need a large experimental model, and they needed a canine, a dog. And we weren't going to fabricate or manufacture or whatever. We weren't going to create a dog with MTM, but we've actually found some dogs that had the same genetic mutation as these moms. It's an X-linked mutation, so
Mhm.
mama gives it to her boys. So, but it was so rare. And yes, Joshua was one of 50 or 55 known cases in the world when he was born in 95. The internet was just becoming a thing.
Mhm.
Now we know it's 1 in 46,000 births, male births. So there's probably about 5 to 8,000 kids out there with MTM.
Wow.
So
Right
yeah,
now,
yeah,
right
yeah,
now. Oh
yeah,
my gosh. Allison woke up one day and said, let's start a foundation, the Joshua Frase Foundation,
right.
for congenital myopathy. Research was born. During Joshua's first year, there were no answers, no guidelines, no research, no doctors knew what they wouldn't know what they were talking about. And that all changed with the dog colony. Talk about that amazing dog colony that
It
you guys
was
support, and the handlers and all that.
Yeah, it was fascinating. So again, we were engaged with proof of concept in mice. We needed a large animal, and we found a dog. You got to read the story. Our listeners, you got to read it because
I
it's a
know it's hard.
fast.
It's hard to explain so much in so little time.
Re-
I know, Polly.
yeah, really quick. It was we found a dog, and then we lost a dog because our doctors decided to. One was on vacation. Allison, uncharacteristically of her, said, "Okay, we found the dog. Now you guys, you scientists, got to go get the dog and bring it back." The doctor comes back from vacation after 2 weeks, and Allison's like, "Okay, you got the dog yet?" And the owner had spaded the dog, spayed or neutered. It
Oh,
was a female dog, and Oh yeah. So we lost the only needle in the haystack that we could find worldwide. Well, Allison gets on the phone with the veterinarian up in Canada. Luck would have it that Canada keeps really, really good records of canines, and there was a muscle tissue sample sent from Canada down to the University of San Diego. One of the doctors down there was one of the largest clearinghouses for dog canine tissue for muscle disorders. Calls our doctor, who she had met a year before in a conference, and says, "Hey, Alan, I think we're looking at myotubular myopathy under the microscope." And
Wow.
all of a sudden, so we get the connection up in up in Canada. Allison calls the veterinarian, says, "Hey," tells her the story. "I need your help. Do you have these dogs? Can you get to the owners?" This veterinarian calls about 5 owners up there that she thinks that there's muscle wasting disease in the dogs. One calls back. Allison gets on the phone with them, and she says, she starts explaining. Within 2 or 3 minutes, the gentleman said, "You need to come get my dog right now. I want to give nibs to you to solve this mystery to help your son." And
Wow.
interestingly, yeah,
Go ahead,
he,
Paulie.
well, interestingly, he said accidents happen on the farm. I've lost a lot of animals. You need to come now. And Allison was on the plane probably a week later. It was December 15th, and she got on the plane December 27th. And she went up to
Wow.
Saskatoon, to the Saskatchewan province of
Yeah. Yeah.
Canada, up to Saskatoon, and
I've been there. I played
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
So everything had to almost come in order. And I want to talk about the doctors that were busy in their own research and their own thing. And you guys had this little disease with only 55, no money, no research, nothing. But yet all these doctors took the time. I mean, how unselfish of all these researchers and doctors to jump in with you guys. And then I want you to talk about the galas, how you guys raise money.
Yeah, so you're talking about the doctors. My mother-in-law was watching daytime TV, and she sees this doctor Atala in Boston Children's and Harvard Medical Center, and he's growing skin. He's in regenerative medicine, which they call it genetics now. They call genetics regenerative medicine as well right now.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law calls his office. He calls her back within a day, and Allison and her mom have a conversation. This is before Joshua was 1 year old, and mind you, 50% of these kids do not make it to their 18th month. And so and my mother-in-law is a Bible thumper, and she's going to find out if you believe in destiny, and you believe in God and heaven and hell, and immediately. So she actually tested the doctor, and she says something, and he says, well, he said amen, and she's like, oh, she was like, yeah. Anyway, that that to say, the doctors, all the original doctors, were so altruistic. They just, yeah, only 50. There's no money coming from the NIH for 50 kids.
Right.
So what happened was I had been in the league, enough years, and made some good friends. And I had the best man at my wedding was at Bear Stern, and he had climbed the corporate ladder, and he was in with a lot of heavy hitters.
Oh, Pat Kelly,
And
is that who it was? Your best
yeah,
man? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Pat.
yeah. He was what a, he everybody wanted to be like Pat. He was the class clown, but he was the genius as well, and you don't usually get that combination, right? So at Syracuse, he was the one that he was able to get us all out of trouble. And so I was the same year as him. Spent 5 years with him at Syracuse, and then he got drafted to where I wanted to get drafted. I always wanted to play for the Orange Crush, in Denver.
Yeah.
But so Pat got drafted, played in Denver for 2 years, and then he ended up coming back to the Jets, and we were teammates again for a couple years, and that was pretty darn cool. But when he got out of the league, he started doing the financial world. He climbed the ladder. He was one in a million guys. Just took up a storm, and he actually helped us. The very first night that we rented the Hard Rock Cafe in Copley Plaza in Boston, we raised $144,000 that first night, and then we ended up being one of the top fundraisers in Boston for about 5 or 6 years. So we were almost getting to $950,000 for just one night, and but anyway.
1997, you partnered
Yeah,
with the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
that's right.
Talk a little bit about that.
So Pat said, Pat kept in touch when Joshua was born and says, Paul, how are you doing? And then he said one time, he says, we need to raise some money. Let's have a party, get our Boston College friends and all of our Syracuse friends to converge on, the Hard Rock Cafe. And it was, we didn't look back, and what happened was we were able, in Allison, usually you give money to an institution and they take 60% and keep the lights on, and a few dollars gets to the research. Well, Allison's like, nope, you either give us, that first year she's like, you either give us 100%, dollar for dollar, or we're not cutting the check. So she
Well,
really, yeah.
Yeah, she was big behind it, man. My gosh. All right, let's talk about Joshua's courage and sense of humor. I mean, the kid fought for his life every day, and you talk about how you changed and how you've learned so much more from him. What a purpose-driven life for 15 years and 11 months, Polly. Talk
Yeah.
talk about Joshua.
Yeah, one day, so Joshua was very fragile, and we lost him a number of times, and we had to revive him. And one time, he was probably 8 years old, and his lungs collapse. He's leaving us, and we're just frantic, and we get him 911, and we had to resuscitate him many times in his bed.
Mhm.
Allison she was cool under pressure. She was like ice through her veins, like a
Yep.
pilot.
Yep.
I was like, okay, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And but the one time, and Allison would take the days when we went to the hospital with his lungs collapsed. She would take the days, and I eventually took the nights. I would go take the nights, and I gathered his stuff. It was a morning time that we ended up 911 to the hospital. I gathered his things. I followed them up about 2 hours later. I sent Allison home about 9 o'clock at night, and he was still comatose. He was still comatose. So um, now we would put a matchbox next to his hand because his voice was so quiet. If he woke up in the middle of the night and I had dozed off in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
he needed to be able to wake me up. So we would put it in his hand, right next to his hand. He'd pick it up, and he would go ting, 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 ting on the metal rail.
Yeah.
Well, about 2 o'clock that morning, I hear tink, 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 and I look. I wipe the sleep out of my eyes, and I'm looking at Josh. He is wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. He wants to have a conversation. And he said, "Dad, I'm glad I'm still here." And I said, and this is an 8-year-old, maybe 9-year-old. Dad, I'm glad I'm still here. And I said, well, I'm glad you're here too, Josh. And then he says, yeah, but I'm glad I didn't die today.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, Yeah. And
Ooh.
I'm like, okay. Uh, and I'm thinking I'm a preacher's kid. So I have to use my, infinite wisdom of life and death. And I said, well, Josh, everybody's going to die someday, but, we believe in God and Jesus. And we believe we're going to see each other in heaven. And he
Mhm.
says, yeah, but, but he says, yeah, but not until I'm old like Nana. And, and his grandmother probably 76 at that time. And so you talk about courage. I never heard him complain. We never heard him complain one time.
Wow.
And he
Holy
was,
cow.
yeah, he was in a wheelchair, never walked, never took a step. And then his last 5, 6 years of his life, he was in a gurney. He actually went to school in a gurney. And, Um, but you're talking. He was a National Honor Society student. I
Yeah.
I had I had no idea how to qualify for the National Honor Society student.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, and anyway, I had to dumb him down a little bit and make him watch The Office with me for it was from 9 to 9:30 and 9:30 to 10, and he would slap my leg. I'd lay in bed with him, and he'd slap my leg and say, "Dad, Dwight Schrute is an idiot. What is wrong with Michael Scott? What is wrong with him?"
Oh my gosh. Great memories, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And then that fateful Christmas Eve. You guys were
yeah,
on such a roller coaster ride for so many years. I mean, you lost sleep. You tried to play in the NFL, which is hard enough. It's a strain on the marriage. We're going to talk about that in a second. But man, talk about that Christmas Eve and how God called them, right?
mm,
Just, I mean, amazing, heartbroken thing.
yeah,
And you guys were, obviously broken, but the purpose of his death is not in vain. I mean,
no.
he did not die in vain. He has done so many and probably saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives coming up. I wanted to ask you, how is recent studies going for NTM?
So we did get into clinical trials, and the first kid got a shot of gene transfer therapy September 19th, 2017.
Wow.
He was 10 months old, and I have a picture of him standing up at the beach, and he's probably
Wow.
5 or 6 years old in that picture. And
Holy.
and most of the kids, we had 24 kids get dosed, and we had 4 tragedies, but we had 20 miracles of kids that are off the ventilator, are walking, which
Wow.
would never have happened. And we knew in the canine trials that we within 21 days, and our scientists didn't tell us this because he thought it was the equipment was broken, but it was like a 300% muscle increase, strength increase over the first like 15 to 21 days. And
Holy cow.
and he told his technician, do the test again, and they did the test. And and it was working perfectly in the canines. So what happened is we had just some amazing miraculous events take place in some of these kids, and we need to,
Yeah, we need to
so
celebrate it, Paula. You're right.
yeah,
Now, let's talk about Nibs, the matriarch of that dog colony. Rocky, Pavlov, Turing, gene therapy, and Mandy Lockhart was one of the first, right? Dog colony handlers. Um, that strides that you made, breakthroughs, never a coincidence. But Ellison, some of her oh gosh, I wouldn't call it intuition, but sixth sense that she has,
right,
especially in the middle of the night. Like you said, I don't believe in coincidences.
right,
Neither
right.
do police officers. But
Hmm.
yeah, talk about Allison and her strength, and then your marriage. Okay, talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. She was a pillar. she struggled early on, and she blamed herself early on, because again, it's
Right.
mama give it to her boys,
Right.
and and she was like, I what does she say? I succeeded in doing one of the most horrific things in this life. I gave my son the gene that would cause his death, and she really took that to heart. And
Hmm.
but within and we probably Joshua was about 2.5 years old, and she started turning the corner, realizing the job that she had to do, that we had to do, and she took it on full force. And we have a, I think it was chapter 6, perceptions change in Quebec. And we were walking, literally walking down the little, a little cobblestone artisan. We had a lot of artisans and stuff, a little cobblestone flea market type of thing, and we saw a family coming at us, which was us, a year and a half before.
Hmm.
And I talk about, we would have, a year and a half before, or before Joshua was born, we would have looked at that family from across the street and said, that must be tough. We feel terrible for them. That's tough. But we would have walked on by.
Right.
And this day in Quebec, old Quebec City, we stopped and we talked to that family. And and we learned it was literally our story. And the mother was ashamed. She was struggling with it. It
Yep.
was X-linked, and the father was like, "We're going to have a normal as life as possible," and that's exactly what our lives turned into. And
Hmm.
but Allison, I have told Allison many times, Joshua is alive because of you and your mom. Her mom sacrificed about 3 years when Joshua was first born,
Yep.
and as Allison was the best mother that that boy could ever have.
You
And
know, Polly, numerous doctors counted him out, but you guys, how did you respond? Prayer was a huge factor for you, your faith and your hope and purpose. Um, and both of you had it, and both of you have to have it. I'm going to read an excerpt from the beginning of chapter 27. Here in America, I have a 50% chance of marriage ending in divorce. I am the father of a child with special needs, parents with special needs. At 80% of chance your marriage will end in divorce. I'm an NFL retired player. 60 to 80% of those marriages end in divorce. Joshua passed away. I became the father of a deceased child. 75% of those marriages end in divorce. Without God in both your lives. Talk about that, Polly.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we 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 the truth of the matter is, unfortunately, after 27 years, we we went through that, we became a statistic. And that was, but our faith, and it's all about two people being selfish. And
Right.
but but our our faith in the process of Joshua, and finding a cure or finding a therapy for these kids, and finding just sticking with it through thick and thin, and through, you know many years of, for better or for worse, for sicker or
Right.
for poor, or for, richer or for poor, sick in health, whatever. And yeah so that's one, that's a casualty that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
it's but
Yeah.
and we, we have Joshua has a sister. She was born 6 years after him, and they were normal siblings. And so we got to experience the Christmas mornings, and
Yeah. Yeah.
the Saturday morning fights, over the PlayStation controls and all that stuff.
Yeah, talk
Yeah,
about Isabella. Talk about Bella.
she she's she was great. She was, you know what, these kids, the siblings grow up really fast because they're around nurses, then they're mostly around adults.
Right,
And
right.
and as much as Allison and I want to say we did not favor, but we didn't, spend more time with one or the other. By default, when Joshua is going down and you have to save his life, and your eyes are on him and your attention's on him. Obviously, Isabella had to have some scars from that. She's
Mhm.
just joy. She's brilliant. I I uh, I don't know if it's because I'm biased, but she's an incredible musician. She's got a heart for God. She's got a strong faith. Her mother doesn't like the tattoos that she's getting on her arms, and I say, hey, I don't like them either, but I love you, young lady.
That's right. That's right. Polly, talk about your head rush podcast with Corey Berry. I saw it's how to cope and find hope. CTE. I saw you had Dr. Jim Kelly was your latest guest, a head trauma and brain injury expert. How is that going? And I'm so glad you started that podcast, man.
It's going well. We've got a lot of interest, and we're actually starting to. We're so nobody can say they have CTE, right? The fact of the matter is the
Right.
346 of 375 NFL deceased NFL guys had CTE.
Right.
Um, and the Bob Stern, he was one of the lead researchers on that, and Dr. McKee as well. She would say, and he would say, that's a bias sample, because those brains were from families that, the families were saying, hey, he was acting the fool his last 5 years of life. You need to find out why.
Right.
But the fact, so what is the real number? Is it 50%? The 346 of 375 is 91.7%. What is it?
Unbelievable. Everybody
And now,
should donate. Every single ex NFL player should donate if they can.
exactly. And we were talking to Kevin Stevens. He was a power forward for the Penguins and won a couple Stanley Cups with Lemieux.
Hmm.
He they're taking the checking out of the youth leagues, which is he's touting the mental health issues of
Right.
banging your head.
Right.
And 18 of 19 or 19 of 20 hockey players have they've found
Oh,
CTE, and 19 of 20 hockey players.
oh my gosh.
Kind of started out like the NFL, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they were saying 110 out of 111 NFL players. now
No
it's
way. No way.
yeah,
No way. I
yeah,
know four of my ex teammates that committed suicide before they
yeah.
were 50. And yeah, it's just, I commend you, man. Kudos for that work. I would love for you to have that lady doctor in Boston. I forget her name right now, but Bennett Amalu would be amazing. Polly, they got to be close. How close is the research to finding it out in living human beings?
They're very close. Alzheimer's had a breakthrough with biomarkers just from a blood draw, and
Mhm.
Boston University and Chris Nowinski and the gang up there, they are actually emulating, or they're actually following in the footsteps of a clinical trial by taking a blood draw and trying to find the biomarkers. So
Right.
you know what, they're one step closer, but they're still way too far away. So and we know there's a lot. I watch a movie called Quiet Explosions if you have interest in this.
Okay.
And it's all about inflammation. It's a blast explosive specialist who's featured. He's a Green Beret, Andrew Marr, and I think he went through 3 or 4 tours in Afghanistan, and
Right.
he was pretty darn messed up.
Yep.
And
Yep.
anyway, and then he ran into a Dr. Gordon and Dr. Amen, and it's all about inflammation in the brain. It's all
Hmm.
about the hormones in your body and your brain. The neuroactive hormones, the steroids and the neurosteroids. Neurosteroids are made in your brain from your neck up. Neuroactive steroids are made down in your gut.
Hmm.
So there's so much to it, and get one concussion, and your pituitary gland stops producing the optimal level, or
Right.
of HGH, whatever one factor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
The
yeah,
imbalance. It comes to become an
yeah,
imbalance.
exactly.
Yeah. Marcus Paul Foundation golf outings coming up. I'd love to hear stories about SU's captain in 1988, Marcus Paul.
Oh, he was. You know what? He was a gem. He was absolutely salt of the earth. He was always smiling. Obviously, a hitter. He ended up playing 4 or 5 years, I think, in the league, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and he and Daryl Johnston. I think there was one other captain that year, their senior year, and we my senior year we were the undefeated team, and they only lost one, maybe 2 games.
Wow.
That year in 88, 89, they has that was a streak of 5, 6, 8 major bowl games that came upon Cuse. But Marcus Paul, they do a lot of scholarships for youth in the Kissimmee area where he grew up in
Yeah.
Orlando, Florida. And just he's dearly missed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
Mike Wojcik was like a big brother to him, in the weight room.
Yeah.
And
Right.
um
Right.
so
Yeah, it's great to have Coach Wyshik on, man. There it is. There it is.
yeah.
Game changer. It's a game
And
changer. Changed your life, and you changed you and Allison and all your family and doctors changed a lot of lives for a lot of people, man. You got to
yeah,
feel good. Got to feel good
yeah,
about that. And if it wasn't for Joshua, then that would have never happened. JoshuaFrase.org. Go there, get yourself a copy, and donate to this worthy cause. Venture capitalists finally come in after 22 years.
yes.
How are they accepting, and how is it continuing on with gene therapy and stem cell
Well,
and all that?
let's just say it's an interesting journey when you go into try to find a small molecule pharmaceutical. And um a lot of things, interestingly, the company is recreated, and they kind of leave the original scientists behind. And we think that the science should stay in the institutions as long as possible.
Right.
Because when you get rid of when the original scientists are out of the research, um, you lose something, you lose a
In
lot.
translation, yeah, you lose something in
Yeah,
transition
yeah,
there.
yeah. So interestingly, through we lost 4 kids, and quite frankly, we don't know if we had to lose 4 kids. So
Right.
Allison is very active, and she's actually talking. She wants to, we want to fix this.
Yeah.
That's the foundation's goal. Our goal was to, in our son's time, selfishly, we wanted to find a cure.
Sure.
But
Right.
if he passed on, we were not going to stop until these kids had an opportunity.
That's
So
awesome, Paulie, man. That's
yeah.
awesome. I mean, the perseverance that you have is omnipotent. I mean,
Mm.
nothing can take the place of persistence. Education will not. Intelligence will not. Man, just a beautiful story. JoshuaFrase.org. Paulie, you got to have you on again, and we'll just talk football. And
Would love to. And I so appreciate you being you wanted to talk about the book, with
yeah,
this, and I don't say this you look at that book and there's a gold medal on it, and that Joshua's story, not Paul Frase's story, not Allison's story, Joshua's story has won two nationally voted upon events or medals,
oh
a
wow,
gold, yeah, gold and the bronze, and it's a story it's worth your time. It's only $12 on Amazon, right?
yeah.
and, but
What's the
but
name of it again?
I'm sorry.
What's the name of it again? The show on
It's
Amazon?
the Are you talking about the Game Changer or no
Yeah, Game Changer on.
Yeah. Amazon. If you go on to Amazon and you search Amazon Paul Frase Game Changer, it'll pop up, and
There it
yep,
is,
there
right
you
there.
go. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Paulie. Thanks so much. We'll do a show again soon. Talk football,
great.
talk CTE. Kudos to you and Corey Berry for doing that show. Anything
Thank
that can bring awareness to our teammates who are dying at an alarming rate.
And one thing is, there's hope. There are therapies. There are things you can do to make you feel a little bit better. There are things that work. You just have to seek them out.
Yeah,
So,
let's do that. Thanks, Paulie.
great. Thank you,
Appreciate
Paul.
man. Thanks for taking the time.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you.
Okay, Paulie, bye. Man, what a book. What a book. The Game Changer. Amazing story of resilience, courage, faith. It's got it all. And so pick you up a copy. I want to thank Paulie for doing that, and everybody for watching the show. If you like it, make sure you share it, okay? Follow the page. And yeah, thanks so much for this. Stay tuned for these great messages. Everybody have a great sports weekend. It's a great time for sports. We'll see you soon, everybody. So long.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Arbitrium Consulting for all your fencing, landscaping, pressure washing, tree trimming needs. Call 850-483-0350 for your free estimates. Serving Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, Perdido, Gulf Shores, Foley, and the entire Gulf Coast. Arbitrium Consulting is owner-operated, fully licensed and insured. Call today, 850-483-0350, the official landscaper of Coach's Corner.
Hey, Bama fans, this is Will Moore, president of the Pensacola Bama Club. You can find us at PensacolaBamaClub.com. We are your official alumni chapter in the Pensacola and surrounding areas. Membership is available to all alumni and all Bama fans, so come see us at one of our many events throughout the year. Our Bama football watch parties are the next best thing to being in Bryant-Denny Stadium. We even serve authentic stadium hot dogs. Membership, event, and contact information will be found on our website at PensacolaBamaClub.com. Roll Tide.
Over 30 years, you have seen the orange Beck signs all over the Gulf Coast listing a property for sale or lease. Beck Partners is your trusted advisor in commercial real estate, property management, commercial and personal insurance. Senior Vice President David Valletto has been with Beck Partners since 1989. Take advantage of his wealth of knowledge by calling him today at 982-7352. 982-7352. Extensive experience in all aspects of leasing, sales, management, and site selection will make sure your expectations are exceeded.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.